2016. Please take the roll.
Karen?
Here.
Carolyn?
Here.
Barbara?
Here.
Patty?
Here.
Linda?
Here.
Tim?
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is for the public to speak. There has been a notice of the hearing. It has been published for at least 30 days in the newspaper, available online, posted in the lobby, and documents were available in the administration office. I do have a copy of people who would like to speak. However, I only have one on here. If anybody else would like to speak also, you're welcome to.
Why is that for the
Oh, okay.
public comment?
Okay, so does anyone like to speak for public comments for the budget and appropriations meeting? Okay, so please take note that there is no one for the comment for the tentative budget and appropriations public hearing. So on that note, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this public hearing. May I have a motion?
That motion.
Second.
Okay, so a motion from Tim and Patty. So if we can please take a roll.
Karen?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Great. So we'll just wait a few minutes for our next meeting. Thank you very much. So is this? Let's call the regular meeting of the Nasco Library District Board of Trustees to order. It is 7 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday, June 15, 2016. Diane, please take a roll.
Karen?
Here.
Carolyn?
Here.
Barbara? Here. Patty?
Here.
Linda?
Here.
Tim?
Here.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 18, 2016. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Karen and Patty. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Okay, none. All right, Diane, should we take a roll?
Karen?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Okay, the next on our agenda is public comment. So, I'm sorry, I put it, well, there were two lists, right? Okay, so I only have one person, then Jeanette, you wanted on the other,
The public comment.
okay, for the regular public, okay. All right, I have one person on the list, but anyone else is able to come and do public comments. So Jeanette, would you like to come up and speak? Thank you.
I can just leave it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
I'm just here to talk about the pension. I mean, looking over all the notes, and now it's not only all your money, but I'm a taxpayer now and a resident. And it seems, in looking, you have three options. IMRF, that's going to cost the taxpayers an enormous amount of money. Once you're in, you can't get out. Then you have another one, either a 10% return or 12% return, which is absurd. Private companies don't even give that, and they're using their own money, not somebody else's money. I know it's easy to spend someone else's money. And like I said at a prior meeting, if I asked each and every one of you to take that money out of your pocket, would you? And each and every one of you would say, no. So it's easy to spend someone's money. It's not up to the board or the taxpayers to make sure everyone has a pension. We know we're all going to retire one day. We all know we need money to eat, pay utilities, pay our taxes. So I think long and hard before you go after the taxpayers again. How much more can you take out of it? You've already raised the tax levy, and I'm sure it's for the pension, because that's not budgeted for. You needed money to get it somewhere. And again, think long and hard before you spend the taxpayers' money, because they're not happy. Every time they open the newspaper, it's the library, the library, the library.
Anybody else like to speak? Right, next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Brett?
Okay. So for the month of May, and the 11 months that ended, revenue for the month was short of budget expectations by $23,000 and more than year-to-date expectations by $63,000 or 1%. Salaries are $9,300 less than budget estimates or 3.5%, under budget almost $130,000 or 4.4% on the year. Library materials on the month is $500 under budget and $43,000 under budget or 6.3% for the year. Operating expenses for the library, $65,000 under budget or 64.7% for the month, and $89,000 under budget or 22.8% year-to-date. The drastic underspending in the month is due to the expectation set up in the budget. All per capita funds are spent in the month of May, which isn't true, but we have no way to predict it or to spread it. General administrative expenses is $13,000 under budget, or 49.2% for the month, and $83,000 or 28% year-to-date. It's due primarily to slow spending in the consultant line item. Employee fringe benefits, $2,300 under budget, or 4.7% for the month, $28,000 under budget, or 4.6% year-to-date, similar to salaries. Utilities is approximately $2,000 under budget for the month and almost $12,000 year-to-date. And for the month, the net deficit is $411,587, which is $117,000 favorable to the budgeted net deficit of $529,000 and $797,000 favorable year-to-date. If you have any specific questions on the balance sheet or the income statement, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions? Okay, thanks, Greg. Then I will entertain a motion to approve the payment of the bills for operating expenses of $198,484.16, payroll expenses of $268,130.10, special reserve expenses of $0 for a total monthly expense of $467,584.26.
So moved.
Barb? And Karen? Any discussion? Megan, please take the roll.
Karen,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Linda.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is director's report.
Okay, I have two things. Well, first of all, as you probably saw as you came in, summer reading is in full swing, and I just wanted to show you the examples of the children's reading logs because we have an artist on staff, and she does just a fantastic job with them. So this is the one for the little kids. It has tips for parents or caregivers or whoever on the inside, telling them how they should be working with their child, and then this is the way that they keep track of it. And we try to encourage them to come visit the library multiple times, and they get to do little activities. And then this is the big kid log, where they are just encouraged to read a little bit every day, so they color in the little bit that they read each day and then come in and take turns on the great big game downstairs. We have this little army of teen volunteers that are the ones that help them, they roll the dice and they take their turns, and we have little characters that they get to move, and every time I go down there, it's absolutely buzzing, and they seem like they're having a great time, so you've already seen some.
Yeah, I know my kids have a blast. They really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a huge project to get it up and running, but it is really looking good this year. They've done a great job as usual. Yesterday was a very exciting day here at the library. They did the shrink wrapping on the van that has been planned for so long, and it looks fabulous. So, well, it's going to get its grand unveiling at the 4th of July parade.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, which brings me to my next
I do have a
question.
little sneak peek if anybody wants to see it on my phone.
It's done yet, but
I know.
it looks fabulous though.
Not done yet.
But I also though wanted to encourage each of you to walk or ride or whatever you would like to do in the 4th of July parade. So please do let me know if you're willing to do that, because I think your presence at the parade is an important thing. You're out there with the public, and they're the ones who voted you into office. So I think it'll be especially fun this year. I have 2 responses for the Chamber's golf outing. I have Karen going and Tim going. Does anyone else want to attend the Chamber golf outing in Wheeling?
Because I'm not actually gonna golf.
No, just the
Yeah,
dinner
yes.
part. Yes.
What, I was gonna say, what time is it? Because I'm working summer school, and that's
Okay,
my
I will
only concern.
find out for you. Okay. Anybody else thinking about it?
What date was it?
July 19th. And that's what day of the week? That was.
It says.
It's a Wednesday, then I have to know what time it
It's
is.
a Tuesday.
Either
When
way.
we're talking about these events, this means like.
Yeah, it's at 5:00 PM.
I think
Because of how much money we were spending, and the golf outing wasn't a popular one. Thought we had a conversation about that at a prior meeting, when we were thinking about how the board members spend money and how wasteful we are. And you brought up our trips, and then someone mentioned, well, the golf outing, what's our point of going to a golf outing or having dinner?
What's a chamber event is all, but
The
I don't think
point
anybody's
was-
ever done the
It was
golf
the
part.
cost, and someone says, well, you know, that would be one we should eliminate. I thought we all agreed. That was just a few months ago.
Want anything?
I thought it was, if it's something that the village itself sends people to, then we would accept it.
Well, no, this one specifically,
I don't
actually,
remember.
I can't say for sure who said it, but someone said that they thought it would be one we shouldn't go to. And we all agreed then.
We didn't all agree.
I don't
I
remember.
recall it coming up in.
Well, we can look it up on the video,
Yeah.
but anyway, whoever goes, goes. But we should keep
Yeah.
track of this. That's why these things should be in the minutes. And then we won't have to guess.
We can look back.
Yeah, and I don't really have to go. I just thought that we've gone to some of these chamber things in the past because there sort of was a feeling that we should be there representing the library along with other businesses, but I don't really care if I go or not.
I think we decided after last year, this one wasn't so
Yeah.
well attended.
What,
I remember
the chamber?
discussing this one or-
The chamber
The golf outing
event?
last year was not very well attended. You didn't make it, I think you
Yeah,
missed it.
right, that one I
Yeah, and it
missed.
wasn't really,
But-
so that brought it up.
I know, in the past it was, I know I've always been there with the park district.
Yeah, it wasn't very well last year.
Oh,
But anyway,
yeah, I could make it last.
If I could remember when we had that conversation, I could certainly look it up.
Well, I can try to find it too.
Oh, yeah, we can
Yeah,
put it in
if
the
I
video.
get the
I'll let you know.
I'd like to know what you said
Okay.
about that, because what we said is fine.
I thought you would like to know that the Children's Department is again doing free lunches. You may have read that in the journal already. Got that in today, but they're doing lunches for children during the summer on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And they've already gone and gotten training, and that was a very successful program last year.
And as I recall from last year, there's no price of library.
Nope, none at all.
It's paid by
It's just-
federal funds?
Yeah.
For that?
Oh, yeah. And then I did finally get a proposal from the strategic planning consultant that I had been waiting on. I've not sent this out to you just because I felt like I was really flooding you guys with email recently. So I will send this to you tomorrow for you to take a look at. And then we can, yeah, this is a different one. This is a couple of people outside of Indianapolis. And they do a little bit of a different style of strategic planning. So you can take a look at it, and I would recommend bringing them in at the July meeting or Skyping with them or something like that, so that.
I would like to do that. I'd like to move forward with that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that,
You know, if our agenda's not too busy, but we have them.
okay, great. And then the only other thing I just wanted to mention, I don't want to get into it in detail, but you may have read that there are some changes to the labor laws between who can be rated exempt and who should be classified exempt and who should be classified as non-exempt. And looking at our ranks of people, we will not have to make any changes. We already have only people over a certain level that are exempt. So we should be in fine shape for that. So that is all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I have one question about the lunches. I know it was brought up, I thought it was a great idea, but I know there were some concerns about the cleanup and the effect it had on the library. So where is this actually hosted? Like, when do we give them lunch?
It's in the large meeting room. Dave from his group
And
says
it's
it.
one time, one between what time?
It's between 12 and 1 every day. They
Oh,
have
so
to
it's
come
only an
between
hour.
those. Yeah,
Okay.
and no food is allowed to leave the room. They can't take anything with them.
So do they come specifically for lunch, or are these children who are participating in your program?
It could be anybody. We don't ask any questions. Any child that comes in and asks for a lunch gets a lunch.
It's a good way to get into the library.
So how do you end up with the numbers you need? How do you know how many lunches they have to deliver?
Well, it's an estimate. They'll base it, for this year at least, we have something to base it on.
Oh,
But they can
okay.
tweak it as the summer goes along.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know. All right, thanks.
Sure.
I just want to go back and ask a question
Yep.
about the earlier savings age changes, and maybe you've already talked to Dennis about this, but it seems like some of our employees might be affected by that, and I'm not really sure why they would be exempt, because they've really raised the minimum from like
Yeah.
20-some thousand to like 47.
We haven't had a chance to discuss it.
Well, we've always, I did, the Management Association has put out a good deal, but we only have exempt supervisors here. Some of the libraries have librarians that are classified as exempt, and those libraries are having to make some changes. All of ours are supervisors, so they all meet the salary requirement. I think, I can't think.
So the other people were already getting overtime anyway, should they work overtime?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, almost everybody is non-exempt here in the library. Some libraries, I think that's the advice we've always gotten from Dennis's office, is to keep that at just, to really try to meet that standard.
All right, because it's changed quite a bit.
Yes, yep,
Okay.
no, we did look into it.
All right.
Okay, building and grounds.
You know, I dropped the ball on this,
Oh,
I
wait,
have not
can you-
followed up with, Barbara sent me the name of a group that I'm supposed to contact, I have not yet done that, so I apologize, but I still look Lakota group. The Lakota group.
I saw some of those.
Yeah.
I think right before that, I mean, this is all communication, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Are there any communications in the, sorry. I
Probably
missed
saw
that
there
one.
were like a billion patron comments and suggestions this time, but kind of a balance of good and bad. And then we had a nice little note addressed to Susie Wolf, which says, as they say in the fishing world, she is a keeper. So that was pretty nice.
Is that from her husband?
Okay, Friends of the Library. Carolyn?
Yes, we had our last meeting until September, and Friends of the Library have agreed to donate or to pay for a Charles Dickens, and I didn't write down the name of the program. What was it? Cricket on the Heart.
Cricket on the Heart.
Cricket on the Heart, yes, and they were looking at December 16th, the Friday before Christmas. So it was kind of a good day, and those people weren't sure, so I don't know if they determined what day, but Friends will be paying for that. It's $850, and then there was something called Farm on Franks, is that through the village?
Yes.
And they're paying, I thought it was $250 for that. And then Friends will get some advertising out of it, that's pretty much what that's for. And the other thing was they're talking about a cursive writing contest, supposedly in the fall, and it will be, the contest will be preceded by some sort of classes to teach the, at least second graders how to write in cursive. And then somehow this contest evolves at the end. So they're pretty interested in that. And one of the old business items is the group is supposed to visit a library that the library thinks would be beneficial in terms of us thinking of what may be helpful for us to purchase for the Niles Library. So it's supposed to be the Barrington Library, but now it looks like we're not going until probably October.
Yeah, that was
So-
what Chris had said he wanted,
Yeah.
so.
So that's all I have.
Thank you. Legislative,
I don't have any legislative.
and rails.
I have Rails had a meeting this week. They said that they have received about 60% of their budget from the state. for last year, so, and now that's pretty much over, so, but they had a healthy reserve, so they have been able to write it out so far. One thing that has dropped through the cracks with the state is that they offer training to new library directors, which, so normally I would have gone down to Springfield and I would have gotten all this training, but they don't have that right now because of the funding. They say they have 70 new library directors who are not getting the training, so they're trying to come up with something, but, you know, and at least they are able to, you know, they answer a lot of questions for us, so they're very helpful, but yeah, that piece of the state funding is gone, and also the state funding for talking books is ending, so that program in some locations will be coming to a complete end.
What are talking books do? What was it?
For blind people.
Oh.
Reading newspapers, magazines, things like that, in addition to just like audio.
Is that mail? Because my
Okay,
grandfather used to
yes.
get his by mail.
Yes.
It is huge.
So, that what I have, I'm wondering if it's the same, bear with me, I just wondering if it's the same program that Learning Ally, is that, no, okay, then maybe the line will be different, okay. All right, there's no secretary's report. Okay, new business, adopt, let's see. I'll entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 16-03, an ordinance adopting the prevailing wage rates for laborers, workers, and mechanics employed by the Niles Public Library District.
So moved. Second.
Karen Barb. Okay, this is an annual requirement of the Department of Labor. Is there any discussion?
We really don't have any discretion on this anyway, do we? So,
What do we have to say? No.
All right, Diane, please take a roll.
Karen,
yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Barbara. Yes. Patty,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Okay, next agenda on the item, next agenda item, I will hear a motion to approve ordinance 1604, an ordinance determining personal property no longer necessary or useful to the Niles Public Library District and authorizing its conveyance or sale. Motion?
So moved.
Sure. And Patty? This is to allow the library to sell the van. And how do Susan or Greg plan to go about selling the van?
So, what we plan to do is get a couple of quotes from maybe a dealership or somebody like CarMax, and then advertise for bids and establish a floor so that we would only accept bids above a certain level. So, once this is approved, we'll put that into motion with proper notices.
So they got closed envelope bid?
Yeah.
Okay. So not like an auction. Okay, got it.
I have one question, though. I don't understand why on the second paragraph, we state that it's $1,000 or less. Isn't the man going to be probably more than that?
Oh, is that stipulation for the ordinance, for the item, I think? Oh, no, remember, it'll affect the price.
It's the or useful for library district purposes that comes into play here, so it's, you have two choices. It's either $1,000 or less, or it's not useful for library district purposes.
And we're not restricted
I'm
by.
sorry, it says and, but it says and.
Or less.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no longer necessary.
This is the necessary or useful.
The
Yeah, you're right.
$1,000
So we could-
deals with the threshold on how you dispose of library property, and if whatever you're disposing of is less than $1,000, you have great discretion as to how you get rid of it. If the value of what you're disposing of is between $1,000 or $1,001 and $2,500, there's another way under the act that you can dispose of it, and if it's worth more than that, then there's an advertising requirement and a number of other steps that need to be taken. So I don't know the value of this van.
So then the value only determines the disposition of the item.
How you dispose of it.
Okay, then we're okay.
So Wade must have just reused something that we've used in the past on other things that were less cost, so I think you could probably just strike that part of it.
I don't know, what's the value of it, do you know?
It's a pretty nice fan
It's,
still.
between, I understand between 3,000 and 5,000.
Okay. Yeah, then we should strike it for sure. And there is a process, we can talk about that and how you dispose of something like that. This ordinance is a form ordinance that we've used in the past for items that we determine have a market value of less than $1,000. I think that's where it comes from. But again, it's sort of.
You can't find things. Yeah.
I mean, I, you can
You know what, yeah, like,
Probably
where
has
we
to
put
put
the,
it-
yes, the or
exactly.
less goes with 1,000 and the,
Yeah.
and it's,
Right.
how fast you're reading it. Okay, so should we,
So let's amend the motion to strike,
Well, why do we have to do that? I mean, we can still pass this. You
Yes,
discuss,
but we're not gonna make a determination that this piece of property has a unit value of less than $1,000, right?
but if you said there's other provisions
Mhm.
to sell things that are more, then what's the difference?
Yeah, but the ordinance, the
because we're
whereas,
using ordinances.
Is it
whereas
because of the
provision says,
number?
what you're reading is Exhibit A, we're making the determination based on the current language of this ordinance, that it has a market value of less than $1,000.
So then this is incorrect, and the disposition has
You can
nothing to
strike
do
that.
with it.
If what you're disposing of is between $3,000 and $5,000, it should be stricken.
So then, do we have another ordinance number to put there, or are you just gonna?
Now, it would be a motion to amend the ordinance 1604 to strike the words in the second whereas clause has a unit value of $1,000 or less.
Who made that motion?
Nobody yet. He's
No,
recommending.
Karen and,
I did,
Getting-
I did make that motion.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the initial,
Well,
the initial motion.
Yeah,
The
she would-
initial
she would
motion,
have to
I
amend
think
the
it's
motion.
Amend the motion to
contract.
strike the word.
Well, I can ask to amend my motion.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, actually, if I can, just go ahead, I'd like to amend my motion to strike the phrase that says,
Has a unit
it
value.
has a unit value of
$1,000
$1,000 or
and-
less, and. And who's the second?
Me, I'll agree with him.
Right, then it'll just say, whereas it is the opinion and finding the Board of Trustees of Mount Hills Library that said personal property is no longer necessary or useful for the library district. Perfect. Okay, is there any further discussion?
And we'll make sure that it's disposed of, or it's advertised properly before it's disposed of.
All right, Diane, please take the roll.
Karen,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Linda.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Next, I need a motion to approve the expenditure not to exceed $19,000 for the special reserve fund for the replacement of the lead processor in the carrier chiller, model number 30GT-245-510A by Oak Brook Mechanical Services.
So moved.
Second. Aaron and Barb?
Isn't it lead compressor?
Yes, yeah, that's what I think it's just.
Lead, sorry. Does anybody have any questions? As there were 3 bids on this.
So the key here is that Oak Brook actually bid $14,916. What we're asking is for the board to approve the expenditure not to exceed $19,000. The difference, $4,084, is contingency to cover the possibility of replacing and disposing all of the old oil and refrigerants and the compressors if that needs to be done. But they need to basically disassemble it and, examine it, test it before they can make that determination. If they do make that determination, we expect it to be about an additional $4,000, which is not included in any of the bids that are attached to this.
Could they not provide us with a bid just specifically for that, so we have the figure locked in? Or do
Well-
they determine the cost once they open it up and clean out the old with the new?
The second.
So do we need to have that included in this? Can't we just take care of the compressor? It's 4,000. We need a bid for under 5,000.
Well, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, the entire project could cost as much as $19,000. We did not want the board to feel that they were signing off on something that was lesser, like $15,000, which is what the bid is.
Oh, I agree, but I don't want to sign off on something for 4,800 when it's not accurate. I'm saying, why don't we just wait until they can provide us with that? So then we'll be
Well-
transparent totally.
When they provide us those numbers, they'll be at the roof,
Mhm.
and everything will be open, and the board,
So they couldn't give you something in writing, just to say it could cost anywhere from this to that? I mean, I've
they
been
gave it to us
able to
verbally.
get that.
They gave it to us verbally.
I know, but they usually can provide it in writing and then we can vote on it. I think we should make it a policy that we vote on things that are written, because that's how prices increase. And I've been in this business, so I know that it's possible to get these type of quotes. I just don't like us voting on something that we're not sure of and it's not in writing.
The oil and the Freon I'm buying outright by myself. I'm not gonna buy it through them, because if we buy it through them, of course, the price will be 2.5 times or 3
It's
times
true,
better.
can't we just get a proposal in writing that you're gonna be buying this and they're gonna provide a service for X number of dollars?
Well, that's actually what's on there. You need the $15,000 to replace the compressor is for them to replace the compressor. And then if anything else is needed after that, I will buy the oil and the Freon if necessary.
But what I'm trying to say is this verbal conversation we're having right now should be in writing, attached to this, and it's all understood. Because a month from now, we're not gonna remember, and there's gonna be a change, and we seem to be tripping over our decisions because we don't have enough in writing. I don't think it's a big deal to ask for someone to put it in writing.
If I had them put it in writing, the price would be 2.5 to 3 times more for the oil and for the
Okay,
Freon.
so you're
I'm
saying-
I'm
I
certified in
understand.
to buy these stuff. So if I buy it outright by myself, it's a lot
Right.
cheaper than going through
I'm
them.
aware of that. So what do we need this company to do for us with the?
Replace the compressor.
What about the refrigerant and the oil?
Refrigerant and the oil I can buy if it's needed,
And who
I
is going,
purchase it.
so who's going to do the work?
They will.
To run it,
They will do all the work.
and they'll charge us?
For the work, they're gonna replace the compressor.
Exactly, okay.
They're gonna test the oil, they'll test the refrigerant. If it's burnt, they'll extract it. I will buy the new refrigerant and new oil,
Right.
and they will install it, all for $15,000.
And what are we asking for now?
Not to exceed 19.
Just to
Okay,
cover
you
the
just-
possibility of replacing and
Yeah, because-
disposing.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're saying it's
all
gonna
the
cost
oil and
$4,000,
refrigerant
okay,
and
I'm
compressors.
lost. If they're gonna clean the lines, I get all that, okay, and they're going to charge us
Under the 15,000.
under 15,000.
Under the compressor, under the 14,000,
$14,916.
15,000,
Okay, what do we
whatever.
need 19,000 for?
It says we are asking for this amount plus a contingency of $4,084 to cover the possibility of replacing and disposing of all of the oil and refrigerant in the compressor, should that need to be done. So it's just a safe number, just in case it does need, so that when they're up on the roof,
I'm
that
very
they
much
can
aware of the
actually.
procedure. My question is, what are we paying for? $4,000 to dispose of oil or to buy oil?
Purchase oil.
Okay, so we're
To
gonna spend
purchase the oil,
$4,000 on
purchase-
Freon and oil.
Freon currently, a can of Freon, a 30-pound can of Freon is over $600 a can.
Right,
If I buy it. If I purchase it from them, it's over $1,500 a can.
okay.
So by me purchasing it outright, it's a lot
I
cheaper.
totally understand it, and why couldn't this all be in writing, so I wouldn't be asking all these questions? And then we can justify why we need $4,000 more, and then we can vote on it.
Well, I mean, if we could have written it that it was, that the bid simply was to include all of that, but, and then maybe potentially saved it, but we actually thought you preferred it just to be a not to
No,
exceed
here's the
and a
part I don't-
contingency.
I mean, I think it
Here's the part-
actually says that right here.
here's the part that
memo
worries me.
in here.
You're not sure this is the price. This is about what you think it'll cost. this 4,000
Well, I'm
something.
assuming that 4,084 is a
The higher.
fairly solid number.
Correct.
Right.
Based on.
The $14,000, $15,000 is a solid number for the repair and replacement of it if there's no burnt oil or refrigerant in it. If it's burnt, at that point, it's gonna cost another $4,000 for us to purchase whatever we need to
And
put
why
back
couldn't
on.
that be in writing so we know what we're using the money for?
That's what it was asked for the
It says right there, $4,000 to cover the possibility of replacing oil. If you got a new engine in your car.
You know what, I know the
oil in it.
procedure. I've
So
sent men on these service
$4,000
calls
is
forever.
Dave's
I know.
expense.
How come we can't have the company tell us if they need to change this refrigerant, it'll cost X
Because
They
amount?
don't know.
They don't know, and they're not, we're not gonna buy it from them anyway.
Right.
It sounds like it's cheaper to buy it elsewhere.
Exactly.
So is this just for parts, no labor, or is this part labor for this company? They have to run the lines, they gotta
Parts.
do the work.
Exactly. They'll extract it,
And what are they charging us for that?
$15,000 for the repair and replacement of the compressor.
And this, so then 4,084 is just for oil and Freon?
Correct. It has 150 ounces of Freon.
You know, I totally, I get it. I work with chillers, I get it all, yeah. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Why this couldn't be written up that this is what it stands for? What is this actually telling us? To cover the possibility of replacing. And it won't exceed that amount, is that what we're assuming?
Mhm.
Okay, well, personally, I think it's easy enough to just state that, so we don't have to worry about it going over.
Right, and that's what it does say.
No, when you answered, you said you're not sure if that's the number you threw in. I just like things to be concrete.
Yeah.
So 4,084 just to cover the disposing of the oil
The replacement.
and the purchase,
And
okay,
disposal.
all right, got it.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Diane, please take roll.
Karen,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Barbara, yes. Patty,
Yes.
Linda, yes. Tim.
Yes.
And Dave, I'm glad you can get that oil.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the expenditure not to exceed $8,439 from the special reserve fund with the Biblioteca, formerly 3M, for the replacement purchase of 6 credit card readers to be installed in the library self-checks. Motion?
So moved.
Karen? Second? Anyone?
Here, or yes?
Carol? Okay. This is to bring our credit card readers up to the new standards. Any discussion?
I just wanted to know, what are these new standards that we have to comply with? Are these chip readers or something is over there? Okay. So, do people using credit cards to pay fines?
Yes.
A lot.
Really?
Most of them now.
I don't think anybody carries cash on them.
A lot of people use
Doesn't
credit
matter.
cards for buying the simplest little thing.
Like, how large of fines do people have?
Well, sometimes,
Sometimes in the hundreds.
Really?
That's crazy.
You should just put your cards on the shredder.
Jeez.
Okay.
Thought of that happened to library funds, just.
Yeah,
Well, it could be
we,
owing a book.
point of fact, we collect about $50,000 a year in library funds.
this last month it was $3,461.
I guess that makes sense, a lot of money.
I had one question about special reserve. Is that a limited fund? I thought we can only use that money for certain, just certain purchases. We can use it for anything.
No, it is limited to certain purchases, but technology is some of it.
So this is under technology, which it's already been, that was that technology committee we talked about. All right, got it, okay, thank you.
All right, Diane, please take a roll.
Karen,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Barbara, yes. Patty,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Okay, one more item in the new business. I need to motion to approve the expenditure not to exceed $7,511 from the per capita grant with Baker, I'm saying Baker and Taylor. Sorry, B&H Photo for the replacement of the wide format printer in the Public Relations and Marketing Department with a new Epson SureColor T7270D 44-inch dual roll printer.
So moved.
Karen?
Second.
Second, Barb. We have the memo, which was here. Is there anything else we should know? Any discussion? Okay, Diane, please take a roll.
Karen?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. Patty?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Okay, now on to the unfinished business. At this point, we've been discussing the retirement plan in one form or another for the past 13 months. We began this process by removing the language inserted by the prior board into the bylaws regarding IMRF, and continued in October through the first of 8 presentations and discussions. Greg and Susan have presented information about our current plan with ICMA, IMRF, with our current plan, ICMA, also IMRF, and 2 additional options Greg developed. They brought us in representatives from ICMA and IMRF to explain and answer questions at length. Greg has one more presentation summarizing our options, and then we will go around the table and say what we think the best option is and why, and then ask for a motion to approve whichever option or plan appears to have the most support. For that, though, I want to thank Greg and Susan for all their work they have done, also the presenters of ICMA and IMRF for coming and answering all of our lengthy questions throughout this whole process. So based on, so that we can actually have an informative decision and be based on full information. So thank you, and Greg, take it away.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
get
you.
started.
Okay, so what we tried to do is summarize everything that we've seen in the last several months, starting with the problem statement, what we're trying to achieve here. As you can see, the library has at least a tractor retirement plan offering in the area. The current retirement plan puts us at a competitive disadvantage when trying to hire new employees. Said another way, the pool of potential employees can be somewhat restricted as employees moving from another library that does have IMRF, for example, or a richer retirement plan, considers our plan as a major part of their compensation package. Current retirement plan makes it difficult also to retain some employees. We have had some departing employees leave explicitly for better retirement benefits. If you look at a graph of all of the money that's spent by libraries on retirement, it falls into 2 basic groups. The group on the right is all of the IMRF libraries. Those libraries are contributing anywhere between 10% of salary to 13.4% of salary. The average system-wide is 11.7%. So this probably is somewhere on average in that general vicinity. The group of libraries on the left is the group of libraries in the area that does not have IMRF. They have instead some form of defined contribution plan. And that defined contribution plan could take many forms. A lot of libraries and public institutions use Code Section 457B under the Internal Revenue Code to provide defined contribution benefits to their employees. Niles is the red bar at 7.5%, Lincolnwood at 10%, and Schaumburg at 13.5%. So, as you've seen in a previous presentation, we tried to look at all of the plans that were available to the library, and there are only 3 really available to us. One is Section 457B. We already have Section 457B plan. And that's where that 7.5% is supposed to go. Also a Section 401A plan, which is another type of defined contribution plan, and IMRF, which is actually a defined benefit plan. And it's important to note on the most basic level that there's a difference between defined contribution and defined benefit plans, in that defined contribution plans have fixed contributions and the benefits are variable. And defined benefit plans have fixed benefits and the contributions are variable because you're trying to put in enough funding to maintain the promises that you make on the benefit side. So starting with our 457B plan that we have currently, we contribute 7.5%. The employees at this point may take it either as salary or make a retirement plan contribution. The employees determine the investment allocation and therefore assume the risk of investment. The retirement benefit is dependent upon what's saved. So at the time of your retirement, under a plan like this, you would take what's in the plan and perhaps buy an annuity that would pay out over your life expectancy. A lot of retirees tend to manage this on their own, to greater or lesser success. The deferrals that are made are tax deferred, but they're subject to Social Security tax, and employees may make additional contributions up to the statutory limit in the plan. This year, the statutory limit is $18,000, and if for employees that are over 50 years old, there's an additional $6,000 for a total of $24,000. Our plan currently has 44 full-time employees. There are 6 employees that are not receiving benefits until their 1-year anniversary. The balance are receiving 7.5%. 20 fully contribute, 11 take it as additional pay. 6 employees split it between retirement and additional pay, and 1 employee is on leave. $9,000 deposited in ICMA, and almost $4,000 were paid as wages during the month of April. As a side note, the board has expressed in an earlier meeting to discontinue the option to take this benefit as additional wages. The board still needs to vote on this policy change to make it official. So if we look at a typical employee earning $30,000 and declaring married 0, the gross salary on an annual basis would be $30,000. The semi-monthly income would be $1,250. We add the 7.5% retirement of $93.75. Employees that are taking it as additional pay don't have an ICMA contribution and just pay tax for a net on their semi-monthly check of $10.80. If you're putting it all in ICMA, your net is $1,533, and the change between the two circumstances is about $75 per pay period or $1,800 annually. Okay. Total cost of the current program is expected to be $182,000, $931 in the upcoming budget year, if we stay with that. Full-time wages covered is a little bit over $2.4 million. However, if the board decided at some point to cover part-time employees, the cost would increase by about $25,000. New total cost would be approximately $210,000, and the total covered wages would be $2,733,885. IMRF is the defined benefit plan that we've been talking about. In this plan, the employees pay 4.5% of gross gross pay, which is tax deferred completely, including Social Security tax. The library, for the first 2 years, would pay 8.12% of gross pay, and this cost would also include life and disability insurance. The library cost floats depending on the purchase of past service, retirement, portfolio earnings, etc., beginning 2017. So Said another way, for the first 2 years, the library would pay 8.12% of gross pay. And then in the third year, it would change depending on what has happened in the portfolio of employees, as well as what the earnings are and so forth. IMRF targets 7.5% earnings on all of its investments. So if in a given year they earn more than that, that's great. That exerts a downward pressure on the NPLD portion of the contribution. If they are materially under that, it exerts an upward pressure on the rate that the library pays. In 2015, the portfolio earned 0.44%, which was 7.06% below their target, and therefore will exert an upward pressure on the rate going forward. Just to reiterate, this is a one-time, or this is one portion of, or one factor of several factors that can increase or decrease the rate. Once joined, the library cannot terminate its relationship with IMRF. IMRF determines the investment allocation and therefore assumes the risk of investment. And they take that risk of investment and they pass it along to the participating organizations in the form of rate changes. Employees can be fully vested in 8 or 10 years. I want to make a note here. This is cliff vesting. Cliff vesting means that you are not vested at all until the time, at such time that you reach 8 or 10 years. The difference between the 8 and the 10 years is that prior to 2011, they had it was 8-year vesting, and then in 2011 they created a second tier for employees that joined the plan after 2011, and all of those employees would vest in 10 years. The retirement benefit is dependent on a formula, which is basically your wages, your ending wages, times years of service, times a factor. And they use a factor of 1.67% of your wages for the first 15 years of service, and then it's 2% per year of service subsequent to that. It maxes out at 75% of your active wages, and that equates to 40 years of service. Employees may also save up to 10% of their salary in a separate account and earn 7.5% per year from IMRF on that as well. From the employee's point of view, both full-time and part-time employees of 1,000 hours or more in a year are covered. It's a fixed calculation of benefit. Again, 8 or 10-year cliff vesting. If an employee fails to vest, they leave before they reach 8 years or 10 years, if you're tier 1 or tier 2 respectively. They can recover the amount that they put in, but only that amount. They don't get interest, they don't get any earnings. Likewise, they don't get any losses with that. They just get what they put in. All employees start with 20% of their prior service at the library up to 5 years. So an employee that has 25 years experience, 20% of 25 is 5 years. They get 5 years credit on their vesting schedule, and the remaining 20 years can be purchased as past service costs. The prior service can be purchased in whole or in part, and it can be purchased at any point in time as long as they're an active employee at the library. Employees can roll over 457B funds. So if they have something in the current plan, they can roll it into this plan to buy their past service. If they don't buy their prior service right away, it increases 7.5% a year. So buying earlier is cheaper. And then, last but not least, the benefits are guaranteed by state law. So going back to our employee earning $30,000 and declaring married zero, under the IMRF case, you see that there's no 7.5% retirement here. Their gross is still $1,250. They put $56.25 into IMRF, and then we calculate taxes, and they end up with a net income of $971, which is $33 per pay period less than when compared to the ICMA case, okay, or a little over $800 during the course of the year. Total cost of IMRF would be equal to 8.12% for a covered payroll for the first 2 years. It amounts to $221,000, almost $222,000 per year. Estimated cost to cover full-time employees would be $198,000. Of course, that's not an option, but to provide comparable numbers, we're splitting it out here. The estimated cost to cover part-time employees is $24,000. Since IMRF also covers life and disability insurance, the library would be able to offset some of the costs by $18,000, which is approximately what we spend annually on life and disability insurance, and the total net cost in the first 2 years would be just a little bit short of $204,000. There's always a question of what the library's contribution would be in the future. And like any good accounting or actuarial answer, it depends. We have a lot of past service out there. We have roughly $2.7 million in past service. If all of the employees were able to find that money, whether it's in the current 457B plan or in some other savings vehicle, or maybe even take a second mortgage on their homes, it would raise the library's rate from 8.12% to 13.7%. We don't think that that's going to happen at 100%, but it is attractive for several employees. As a matter of fact, there are several Tier 1 employees that would have both age and service if they exercise their right to buy all past service. Remember, we're starting at zero. So if some key employees buy all of their past service and then decide to exercise their right to retire, the library would have to fund their share of the retirement, which could amount to some significant money depending on how many people decide to retire. Another factor on the contribution rate is asset performance. The fund has roughly $35 billion in money. That's billion with a B, and they professionally have the money professionally managed. This year, it was professionally managed to a return of 0.44%, which is 7.06% below the target return. And then this shortfall gets amortized over 5 years. It looks like a disaster, but when you look at it in context being the last 34 years, over that time period, IMRF assets have averaged a return of 9.94%. Over that time period, they have missed their 7.5% earnings target only 11 times. 6 times the IMRF had negative returns, if you think along the lines of the 2008 recession. They lost something to the tune of 24-25% of their assets at that point in time. But the following year, they had equal and opposite earnings. And then all of those earnings get amortized over a time period. Okay. And again, if employees retire and there are no assets, see what happens is as we go, we create a reserve account. And then when an employee decides to retire, IMRF calculates what the present value of those retirement funds are at the date of retirement, and they take that money out of our account. Okay? So if they take that money out of our account, but there's no, it leaves a negative balance, or there is no, like on day one, there is no money in our account, then what happens is they look to the library or the sponsoring organization to write the check to make them whole. They're not going to flow this alone or anything like that. They want to be paid currently. And that's an important thing to keep in mind as you look at this. So leaving IMRF, at the last meeting we talked about a couple, I think it was the last meeting, we talked about a couple of additional defined contribution plans. One I called the hybrid plan. And the reason we call it the hybrid plan is because it involves two code sections, 457 and 401A. We tried to take the best of each one of those and develop a plan that might be a possibility for going forward. Again, it's a defined contribution plan. The employee in this plan, the employees would be eligible to start within 90 days, just like the plan that we have now. The library would contribute 7.5%. The employees then may decide to defer additional funds, which the library would match 1-for-1 up to 5%. Again, because it's a defined contribution plan, the employees determine their investment allocation and assume the risk of investment. So you know what you have in dollars at the end of your working career, and it would be that which you have to spread over the balance of your life. There'd be a 3-year vesting schedule that would start on the hire date or the date of conversion to full-time, and it would be graduated. So each year the employee would earn an additional 33% in the library's contributions. Withdrawals, generally made at separation, are subject to federal tax plus an additional 10% on employer contributions if they're under the age of 59 and a half. There's an in-service withdrawal feature, which would allow library staff who are currently taking the current offering as salary to take the library 7.5% for 2 years. And this would be exclusively for employees that are 59 and a half or older. So they would avoid any excise tax. Additional contribution in the form of percentage of vacation days, not to exceed 25%. That election could be made of enrollment. To give you an idea of what that means, the library paid, I believe, $160,000 in vacation pay during the course of the last calendar year, 2015. So 25% of that number would be $40,000. It's unlikely that we would get 100% or maybe even any, but it would, $40,000 at the outside. So back to our mythical employee earning $30,000. There's 2 hybrid cases, one at no additional contribution, and one at a 5% additional contribution. And the difference is that the hybrid, with no additional contribution from the employee to take advantage of matching, would end up with $1,012.50 as their net. If they decided to maximize the impact of the matching, they would end up at $961.34. And so a slight difference between the ICMA case and the hybrid case. They would actually end up with an additional $7 per pay period, or $172 annually, if they an employee maximize their matching. They would end up spending an additional $1,000 compared to the ICMA case. Total cost of the hybrid case would, or hybrid plan would be equal to 7.5% of payroll, plus any matching. So if every employee in the plan decided to, every full-time employee decided to match 5%, the cost would go from $182,000 at the bottom up to $303,000. Seems expensive, but we don't think everybody, again, would put the full amount in for matching. If you included part-time employees, $205,000 to $342,000 for the year. Again, the upper end is assuming that every single person puts at least 5% in for the library to match their 5%. And then I don't have an exact number here, but as I said before, we paid $160,000 last year in vacation. So if you use that as a baseline and use 25% of that, the upper end of that would be $40,000. God bless. Last plan is the alternative plan. It's a 401A plan. Again, defined contribution. Employees would start within 90 days. In this plan, the library would contribute 10%. Employees would have a mandatory contribution of 4.5%. Because it's a defined contribution plan, employees would determine the investment allocation and assume the risk of investment. And retirement benefit would be dependent on what was saved over the working life. There'd be a 3-year vesting schedule, graduated as mentioned previously. The deferrals would never be subject to Social Security tax, either going in or coming out. And withdrawals generally made at separation would be made generally at separation subject to federal tax, plus an additional 10% if under 55.5. Additional contributions in the form of vacation days not to exceed 25%. That election could be made at enrollment. And then the last new feature is that we would allow employees to purchase up to 5 years of past service calculated at 4.5% of gross salary, matched at 2.5% by the library. And then, of course, if you use the ICMA funds, if an employee used ICMA funds already in the plan, the purchase would be tax-free. You just have to roll it from one plan into the other. Kind of hard to predict exactly what the cost would be on that last item, but if you took the salary base that we're talking about for both full and part-time, roughly $2.7 million, multiplied that by 2.5% and multiplied it by 5, you end up with roughly $340,000. And that's if everybody bought 5 years of past service. So our employee here with the alternative plan, you'll see that it looks very, very similar to IMRF because the only thing that they contribute is the 4.5%. Taxes end up being the same, and their net ends up being the same as the IMRF case. Total cost would be equal to 10% of the covered payroll. So roughly $240,000 per year for full-time, $273,000 for full and part-time if the board decides they want to cover part-time employees. And the contribution to vacation time, as I said earlier, the maximum would be about $40,000. And the maximum on past service would be as high as $340,000. And that's it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I'd like to go around the table and give each trustee a chance to speak. Let's not interrupt anyone, let's give everyone a chance to have a voice. And then I would kind of take a tally on where everyone's at and then see where it goes from there, if I need to create a motion or not. Barb, do you want to
Ask a question.
start? Oh, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Before we go, Greg, I had a question about IMRF. You mentioned the percentages which they quoted us. 8.12 if there aren't any buyback in past years or service, 13.7 if there is. I recall there was a meeting that Kate from IMRF invited you to, and you forwarded that email to us. I think it was in May, and she mentioned that IMRF did not have good 2015 for returns, and the new percentages were out. She invited us to attend, and she said at the meeting they would discuss our 5-year smoothing and how 2015 will affect 2017 through 21. Do we know what those figures are? Did you go to the meeting?
Went to the meeting, and as we said in the presentation, the portfolio earns 0.44%, which means that it fell short 7.06%. That shortfall is amortized over 5 years for each of the participants.
So what's the impact?
I couldn't tell you what the impact is.
She wasn't able to provide that?
No. No, we have our 8.12%. See, everything that IMRF does as far as the rates for the sponsoring organizations is concerned is on a 2-year lag. So what we have right now is the 8.12%, because we don't know everything that's going to happen between now and the time that they strike the rate for the 3rd year. And we only have the one piece of information, the 7.06% shortfall in earnings. It's impossible for them to judge what our rate's going to be at that particular point in
So
time.
my question is, our first year would still stay at 8.12?
8.12%, correct.
And we don't have to worry about an increase for 3 years?
Well, in the 3rd year. So
In the 3rd year?
after 2 years, we'll have an increase.
And then, she never provided us with what an IMRF plan would cost us based on who's buying back years or service and who's part-time. We don't really know what it's going to cost, right? And how do we get that information?
Well, you have to have an actuary do a study.
I thought that's what they did, we paid them.
You have to have an actuary do a study under a number of different scenarios. But what they did do is assumed in an alternate case that everybody bought all of their time, okay? And that would result in a 13.7% rate that the library would pay. And that would be 5.6%, 5.6% more than the bottom, which is 8.1%.
So how much would that cost us a year if everyone bought that?
It would go up from $221,000 to $374,000.
And that's before any increases, which we would incur in a couple of years, right?
That would be before consideration of portfolio performance or retirements or anything along those lines.
That's the other concern. Based on what you know about our employees, what would it cost us if a lot of them are ready to retire and can afford it? And we have 0.
Well,
We couldn't afford one person to retire.
well, we don't have a reserve for them to take money out.
Right, but if
Whether or
they-
not we could make payments to fund those retirements should somebody decide to retire,
I know, what would
which
it
is a
cost
different
us?
thing. If you consider that the way that the plan is structured is a 4.5% contribution by the employee and a complementary contribution by the library of something around 8%, you'd say that roughly the library would have to put in $2 for every dollar that the employee put in.
You know, but I'm concerned about, we're talking now, we're at $374,000 a year if everybody buys back. Previous time, and I didn't even know, I thought that was an option, I didn't know that was mandatory.
Oh, it's not.
It's
Oh,
not
it's an option, it's an option.
It's if they have the money.
So
and
now
they
my
want
point
to.
is, if they wanna do it, they can. If we don't wanna fund that, we have nothing to say about it.
That's,
So we
that is
can't-
correct.
That's my point. So
That's
this
correct.
could really escalate. And what worries me is that they've already lost money and we haven't even jumped in. Okay, so I just wanted
But
some
remember,
clarity there.
Carolyn, over the last 34 years, they have earned 9.94%,
Greg-
almost 10%.
Greg, those are great figures, but you need to really be more realistic. The school districts who were part of IMRF in 2008 lost their shirts. And they were laying off people left and right to offset these costs. So I know if you think about a 50-year lifespan and they only lost
That
money.
wasn't the reason.
Oh, yeah, believe me, I worked with our district in IMRF. There's a lot more to it than you realize. But
Alright, so-
it was very costly.
All right, so I'd like to go around the table now.
But
So
thank you for
Barbara,
explaining.
Go ahead, you can start. Thank you.
Okay, we've been talking about
What-
this for, what, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah,
So I
Barbara's
think
been-
I've said this at least a half a dozen times, but since I'm invited to do it again, I'll go through it again. It's getting nauseam already.
I'm sorry.
Okay, first of all, I want to say again that our librarians are professionals, they're not financial planners. Okay, I'm an architect, I wouldn't attempt to do surgery on somebody. I could do it, I don't know how it would turn out. Okay, the librarians can invest their own money, I don't know how that's gonna turn out either. Without the risk of, without IMRF, there's a real risk that the librarians could run out of money during their retirement. And you have to move in with somebody or go on public aid. As a matter of fact, just today, I heard of a lady in California who ran out of money and was going on public aid. I think that IMRF is in the best interest of our valuable employees. And remember, they are our valuable employees. It's the responsibility of this board to see that that our library's employees are respected and taken care of and looked out for, as are the employees at most other surrounding libraries. Also, I want to remind everybody, especially those opposed to IMRF, that the ultimate pension, the dollar amount received by an employee, will be based on how many years the employee has been in IMRF and how much he or she has contributed. You don't work here for 3 years and get your full salary upon retirement. It doesn't work that way. I think that a lot of people are under that impression. If you've been working here 20, 30 years, or you're in the current retirement plan and you take that money out of the current retirement plan and buy into IMRF, then you're also investing all those past years into IMRF, which is a good thing and a smart thing. Yes, this is going to cost the library some money, but keep in mind that this is something that's been on the table here for years now. We could have made this happen for our employees years ago. We can make it happen now. Better late than never.
Thank you, Barb. So you want to go to Tim? Okay. Tim?
Sure. Well, first of all, I do appreciate all the work that Susan and Greg have put into this. Inviting people to come and speak to us, putting the presentations together, especially the pros and cons. Thank you very much. I do apologize for the email to everyone. I also deeply appreciate the survey responses for the staff. That some of those answers were just wonderful, well thought out, just marvelous. We did, as a board, decide that we were going to take away the option to take the retirement as additional wage. So given that, there is no plan that makes everyone happy. No decision we make is going to make everyone happy. somebody's going to be negatively affected by it in some manner. So this is a very difficult decision. I like to think of the residents of Niles, our community, as the employers of our public employees. We are the community as the ultimate employers. And we offer the Park District and the Village of Niles employees the IMRF option, or the IMRF retirement plan. And we give the fire and the police their plans as well. So I find it a little wrong that we as employers treat the library staff differently than we treat our other employers, our other employees. And I think that's not right. And I also think that as employers, we need to maintain our organization with an equitability that exists in the surrounding organizations. And given that, I am leaning towards the IMRF plan. Those are my thoughts on it. And I do understand it is going to cost us a little bit, it's going to cost us a bit more money. And we have been characterized sometimes, or some of us have been characterized as not fiscally responsible. And I take a little umbrage to that term and that characterization. Fiscal responsibility does not mean cutting every time. Fiscal responsibility means appropriate use of the money, an appropriate use of the money, not just cutting. So in my opinion, at this stage, this is an appropriate use of our money.
If I could go last, because I have a lot of questions and I don't want to interrupt anyone.
I think we ought to hear what Don has to say. 'cause
I'm
that
not
was-
ready, and I have questions for everyone. So what's the difference?
Your questions of who?
Of everyone who's spoken, I have a question.
Well,
We're
I
not,
don't-
we're not asking questions of, we're just stating what you think, and we're going around the table.
I don't think we're here to question each other.
Well, I'm not, I wanted to confer with their comments, because I don't totally
It's
understand.
everyone's opinion just on the table, and that's it. We're just going around the table. So,
I thought you said to let everyone talk first.
right,
before
we
you
are
ask
gonna let everyone
questions.
talk. No, we're gonna let everyone talk and then see how it is, and then make a motion.
Okay, well, seriously, I'm still not ready to give my opinion. I'd rather hear
Alright,
your
go ahead.
pros and cons.
All right. Patty?
I also would like to thank the two of you for all you put into the pros, the cons, whatever research you've done for us to help us better understand what we're voting on. And I too find it's going to be a very tough decision, because no matter how we vote, somebody is going to be negatively impacted. Just as we already decided, although we technically have not had our vote, that we were not going to allow the 7.5 to go towards Edward anymore. I know that will negatively affect people. But I can't, me personally, I can't see giving somebody money for their salary and calling it a retirement. It's not, it's going to their salary. I also don't know about, you're showing on here, putting it towards part-time employees. In most other jobs, I don't know that part-time employees are allowed to invest, unless they're doing it on their own, into the retirement account. I don't know, and I don't know how comfortable I am with that for part-time employees. Other than that, I'm not going to say anything else, because I don't need any questions asked of me at a later date. Thank you.
Which plan do you?
At this point, I tend to lean towards IMRF. because from all the meetings we've had and some of the things they've had for the employees, the fact that they can invest extra money on their own if they wish, up to 10% of their salary, those are all benefits that I think the other plans don't have. You know, they would be very good for one thing.
Okay, all right. This is also a tough meeting for me to come to. I know that not everyone, just like Tim said, is going to be happy with our decisions. I've grown to care about everyone here in the library, and I know there's difference of opinions, and it's impossible today to make everyone happy. However, in the position that we're in, and that the oath I took was to look at the library's best interest and the best interest for the library itself. And our staff is part of the library. My reasoning for my number one is IMRF is, first of all, ICMA. When they came out, they said they are not a pension plan, they are a savings plan. So all along, the whole time I've been on the board, we have not had a pension plan. And that is not acceptable. We do need the greater staff retention. I do know people left the library. Good people left our library. Yes, they left, and that is not acceptable. Some staff may leave and look for IMRF, that was stated. I know it's not all about what the staff wants, but this is the reality. Full and part-time employees are covered. I mean, over 1,000 hours. That's a big deal. For me, personally, having an option, if you have a disabled child, and being able to give them your retirement is a huge piece, and know that they will have retirement for the rest of their life. That hit my family. So that is personal. I know that's not supposed to be a personal piece. However, that's a piece that is in the plan, and that's the one personal piece I'll take with it. But otherwise, it is a positive. After the 4.5%, there is the 7.5% savings plan. I will tell you, people at my work, since that's what they put into that, they promote it. They actually have meetings on what they're doing with their extra 7.5% and building that amount of savings. Stability. Also, I was actually surprised at when I was looking through the reaction or the replies of the staff, stating that some people who took it all as salaries still were wanting IMRF. So that was kind of an eye-opener for me too. Again, I agree with Tim saying this is appropriate use of funds. So that's my saying. Karen?
I'll defer to Carolyn, I'm not quite ready yet.
Okay. Carolyn?
Actually, I'm not either. So if we could have a few minutes and then I can just come back, because I'd like to make some suggestions myself.
I want to 5-minute
Thank you.
break. Okay, then I'll come back and then we'll have Carolyn and then Karen speak. So we'll give a 5-minute at 8:27. We'll take a motion to take a 5-minute break at, can I just have a ayes? Everyone say aye? Aye. Aye. And we'll reconvene at 8:32. We will reconvene the Niles Public Library board meeting at 8:34 on June 15th. Everyone can say aye, or go around, make a roll call.
Karen?
Who's here?
Are here.
Carolyn? Here.
Barbara? Patty?
Here.
Linda?
Here.
Here.
All right, Carolyn?
I've gone over all these
plans, I think we have 3, and what I've noticed is we pretty much tried to mirror IMRF by including everything imaginable as far as adding back service and all these other key points. I don't think selecting a pension or retirement plan for the Niles library staff was ever questioning their value to the great work they do in this library. I think the issue about IMRF is we definitely lose control of our money. We are restricted to however the market works for them. And it hasn't been working that great more recently. They have been doing really well 50 years ago, but stocks just aren't doing that great, and we can never get out of there. That's my only concern. We could have created a very lucrative plan for our employees. We could have increased it year after year, but never been locked into IMRF. I don't understand also how we can vote on IMRF with all these unanswered variables. I thought the purpose of our actuary was to have all that information available, so when we were ready to vote, we could make a more informed decision. So I was wondering when you expected that to happen? Like after we vote, then you're gonna tell us what IMRF is actually going to cost us?
8.12% for the next 2 years.
It's 8.12%, we don't know of what? We don't know of what years, we don't know what people's,
8.12% of eligible employees.
that's, you're talking just straight salary. How many of these employees are bringing in previous years of service? We don't know that yet.
No, I don't think Greg can pull that information out of.
No, but I
individual
thought an
employees.
actuary could provide us that information. I believe IMRF has an obligation to provide us with a detailed report of our prospective costs before we embark on this agreement with them. So when were we planning on getting that information?
We did get it, it's 8.12%. I don't know what you're asking.
Okay, I know what
Everything you
the-
ask me, I'm gonna tell you
Okay.
8.12%.
How much
because that's what
is
I
our
know.
salary going to be based on all your employees, your part-time hours, and everyone who's buying back their time? So what's our salary now?
$2,733,885.
That's if everybody buys everything.
No, that's the salary, that's the covered salary.
That's just our current
If
salary.
everybody buys all of their cash service,
Mhm.
it's roughly, it's another $2.7 million roughly.
So what's the total yearly salary with all the buyback? Let's go with the highest amount so we can get an idea. Say everybody buys back all these hours because they can afford it.
Well, it doesn't change their salary.
No, it changes our percentage of what we pay, so what do we?
13.7%.
On how much?
Two
$5
point-
million.
$2,733,885.
Okay, that's including all the buyback hours.
The buyback hours don't change the salary, Carol.
I thought it increases the cost you pay.
It increases the percentage rate that the library pays.
But the total salary remains the same.
That's correct.
So if they don't buy back, we only pay a lesser percentage on the same amount of salary, so the
If
salary.
nobody buys anything back,
Mhm.
8.12%. On $2,733,885.
Okay, so that's the highest it could go.
No, that's if nobody buys anything back. The highest it.
2.7 is not the highest, but I'm sorry, what is
Seven
it?
is the salary.
So if they, oh no, it's only the percentage that changes, so 2.7 is the total salary.
That's the salary, yes.
And it doesn't matter who buys what, the only thing that changes is the percentage.
That's correct.
And we're not locked, we don't have to worry about an increase, she told you for 2 years.
For 2 years, correct.
Okay. Well, I've had years of experience with IMRF, and they weren't positive, they were devastating, and IMRF is not as stable as some other options. I think it's great that everyone feels confident that they're guaranteed a retirement, and I think it's great that everyone would like to have that. I just don't know that Niles is the suburb that can afford it, because actually, Barbara, there are people in Niles who are on public aid and don't know where to live. So that's
Well,
my
we're trying to
concern.
prevent that from happening to our librarians.
Well, I'm just worried about the taxpayers who have to pay this. So yes, we have those same concerns here, but that's my comments about our retirement fund.
So what would be your choice?
I don't know. It would not be IMR.
So we do the hybrid. Karen?
Okay, I'm looking at a couple of things here. I want to be competitive with other libraries, and I want to know how much it's going to cost. I think being competitive with other libraries is very important. And one thing I've been struck by a couple of times when we've seen this slide up on the screen here is how our district is one of very few districts that does not offer IMRF. And I think that we've lost some potential employees because we don't offer IMRF, that we've failed to retain some employees because we don't offer IMRF. And our recent survey that was taken shows that the majority of our employees want IMRF. And the survey that was taken about 4 years ago, also at that time, showed that most of our employees wanted IMRF. So this isn't really something that's changing a lot over the years either. If I would want IMRF. I wish I could have IMRF. I actually work for a government body. I have a pension, but it's not nearly as good as IMRF. IMRF is really the gold standard of pensions in terms of being stable, in terms of being well-funded, and in terms of being a pension that you would want if you could have it. So I think certainly in order to remain competitive, we should offer IMRF if we can. And I think it's part of our fiscal responsibility and our fiduciary duty to make sure our library is competitive so we can attract and retain good employees. Hey, but can we afford it? Well, that's obviously a consideration. And I'm looking at this, the figures that we've seen tonight and figures that we've seen in the past. I mean, I want to thank Susan Gregg for compiling this information and giving us charts and graphs and everything that we've been studying for months. Certainly initially, IMRF is not going to cost any more than any of the other options. If we stay with the current option, that's $210,000. IMRF would initially be $204,000. The hybrid plan would be anywhere from $182,000 to $342,000. The alternative plan anywhere from $243,000 to $273,000. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these figures. So at least initially, IMRF is the cheapest way to go, but it may not stay the cheapest, and I understand that. I understand that we might have a bulge in a couple of years where our plan might go up to 13, or our percentage might go from 8.12 to 13.7. We cannot predict that with any certainty because that's in the hands of our employees. It's up to our employees whether or not they want to take advantage of buying additional years. So we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but we do know the maximum we would pay is $374,000, which actually isn't that much more than the maximum we would pay under the hybrid plan, which is $342,000. It's a bit more than what we would, the maximum we could pay under the alternative plan, which is $273,000. So I don't see that IMRF is going to be tremendously more expensive than the other plans that we have discussed. And I also think that that's going to be a bulge in 2 years. I think it's going to come down to it. Now, has IMRF done well every single year? No. But have individuals done well every single year? No. I mean, maybe IMRF didn't have such a great return in 2008, but I think you ought to look at your own statements and see did you do that well yourself either? And I think the answer is probably no. I think over the long run, what one should look at is over a long period of time, how well does a fund do?
May I have your attention,
And IMRF's
please?
done pretty well.
The library will be closing in
So I would
15
support
minutes.
Okay, and I know I told you I wanted to go last, because I always have something to say. Can I ask her a question?
No, there's no questions, really.
Well, she mentioned that the only concern we have is that IMRF is $374,000 insured based on our employees, it may go up a little. That's not the reason IMRF will go up. When our IMRF loses in their stocks, you pay more money. When you lose in your stocks, you don't charge it to taxpayers. That's where you get locked into an IMRF nightmare. That's what everyone's afraid of. And you can never get out of it. So there is a difference.
There's not everyone, and of course, we're not just only speaking of libraries, we're talking about the whole staff here at the library. So it sounds like IMRF has the most support, so would someone like to make a motion?
I wonder if Dennis could maybe
us the wording?
You have the ordinance?
I would like to make a motion.
Let's go.
All right, okay, hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, the motion to adopt this ordinance, selecting participation in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, ordinance 1606. Who's going to make the motion?
I'll make that motion. So
I'll second it. Karen, you can read it?
I think it was just read by Dennis, and I said so.
Yeah, for the record.
Is that okay?
It is, and a motion to adopt ordinance number 1606, an ordinance electing participation in the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund.
Karen and Barb.
Yes.
Any further discussion?
I only have a question, when are we making it effective? Which is will be in our motion.
Well, the cost studies were done effective July 1st. So that'll be the target. We'll have to enroll all of the employees.
Diane, please take a roll. Karen?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I just did discussion.
You do have to do a discussion.
Yeah, I
about
just
this.
asked, does anyone have a
Okay.
discussion? Yeah, yes, right? Karen said yes.
Yes.
Carolyn?
No.
Barbara?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Cynthia? Yes.
Yes.
Now you can make a motion to approve ordinance 16-05, an ordinance providing for budget and appropriations of the Moundsville Library District, Cook County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016, and ending June 30th, 2017. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Karen and Barb. We have already approved the tentative ordinance. This is to give the budget our final approval. Does anyone have any questions for Susan and Greg before we vote?
We have, I think that will need to change since you voted on this ordinance, which is that we are looking to raise the amount of the appropriation to leave room for if somebody, if any people buy back all their years and immediately retire, then they will want the money, by or to leave the money now. So we would have to have enough, and we are not raising the budget to cover that, only to leave room in the appropriation.
Right.
And I think Greg has done a little bit of work on trying to figure out how much that would need to be.
So, what I looked at was all employees that are in tier 1 of IMRF, which is an 8-year vesting schedule. Also, that were over the age of 55. And looking at their buyback, their cash service would cost approximately $1.1 million. That's what they would have to come up with. So, because of the way, I want to remind everybody, the way that IMRF works, the employees put in 4.5%, the library will put in 8.12%, roughly 2 to 1. So to be absolutely safe and look at the maximum, we would add $2 million to the appropriation. To the appropriation of the ordinance for the pension plan. But our budget expectations would still fit within the $250,000. If that makes sense.
No, you lost me. Appropriation is $2 million. I thought that means we would need $1 million in the budget to cover the expense.
No, you can, generally speaking, what we do is strike a budget and then double it for the appropriation. This is an unknown, so we need room under the appropriation cap, but not necessarily under the budget cap. We can't accurately predict who might retire. Possibly nobody will retire.
Okay, so do we have an idea? So the $2 million is gonna give us how much in the budget should we need?
Because we don't have a way to estimate that.
They don't even buy staff.
Well, no, this is to retire if there, this is to retire if we have no funds in the reserve account. So if somebody retires on day one,
And how many people are eligible to do that?
there are 11 people that would have age service under tier one if they bought their.
And
their
that
gas
cost us how much
It could cost as much as $2 million.
for the year, or just forever?
Lump sum.
Okay, so you're putting two in appropriations, but you can't take out two. If you put two, they only take half of it.
If-
I thought
Generally-
appropriations was double.
Generally, we double it,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have to. So, like, last year before last, we put an extra $100,000 into the consultant line in the appropriation, but we didn't put an amount that mirrored that in the budget,
Okay, all right.
because we hope not to spend it,
I got it, okay.
but we can't accurately predict it.
Greg, can you tell us what page are we looking at, where the amount?
63.
3?
63.
Well, it's 63.
In the
All right,
packet.
well, if we're looking at the.
Page 4.
Be paid for.
Public hearing, okay.
Yeah, page 4.
Employee fringe benefits.
It would be under employee, on page 63 of the board packet, it would be on page 63, under employee fringe benefits, about the middle of the page. The line pension plan
Oh, that's thank you.
should be changed in the first column to be $2.5 million, that's the appropriation. And the budget should stay the same at $250,000.
We're gonna keep that
If we
1,000.
did in fact have
Yes.
those, or some retirements, our salaries would actually go down somewhat too, wouldn't they?
Not necessarily, because we would replace those employees,
But
though we
generally, we
may,
replace them at lower salaries.
though we may do that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's in fact why we offered the early retirement some years back.
That's correct.
Because there's the notion that people have been here for a while leave, they are generally at higher salaries and will generally be replaced by people who
That's
come in
correct.
at lower salaries.
That's correct.
We said that when we had our last retirement buyout, and we were going to go over 29 hours for part-timers because we didn't want to be affected by benefits, and that changed already, so just
Well,
we can't be
that-
so sure how we're gonna go in the future.
That's not exactly true. Let me point out that there were a number of employees who were already on the books that had been hired at 30-plus hours per week.
But I thought our determination at that time was to keep people part-time,
Uh,
under 30.
And we did, but we had no, let me also point out that under the Affordable Care Act, it is illegal to change somebody's hours to remove them from a pool where they might be offered healthcare.
That's true.
Okay?
But sometimes it's a matter of rearranging staff, but that's fine. What I'm trying to say is we never know what the future holds, because it seems you can't really think tomorrow will keep costs down, because we've shown sometimes we've had to go the other way.
So procedurally, we need a motion to amend the budget appropriations ordinance to change the appropriations under the pension plan from 500,000 to 2.5 million.
I have a question first.
May I have your picture, please?
Um,
The library will give you the bond.
So this would change the grand total to 14,886.
The great hall.
It's gonna change all the dollars.
Yeah, it'll roll through the entire document.
Okay.
And the
And
text
the
is-
appropriation, of course, is scaled back by the clerk, once the clerk gets it, right?
No, you're thinking of the tax levy.
I'm sorry, the tax levy.
So this has nothing to do with the tax levy.
Oh.
Please don't make me
I'm sorry. That's- I'm going to have to explain it again. Is that okay?
Yeah, the pension line.
Yeah.
So this is just a limit on our
Employee
expenditures.
benefits.
Can I ask one question? If I'm looking at the wrong form, I apologize, but I'm looking at what I thought was like the budget we're approving for the upcoming year. We're showing 250,000 for a pension plan. And it could be as high as 374. Plus now we have to worry about,
Not this year.
This year, it's only 8.12%.
so 250.
It'll fit within the 250.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And so, Karen?
Yes, or wait, do it. I think we should have a motion on the board.
To have that number reflect $2.5 million.
We don't actually have a motion on the book yet, do we?
We do have a motion, it's just to approve the tentative ordinance, so we have to amend it. Do we need a motion to amend? Motion to amend?
The motion to amend, is there a motion to amend on the table right now?
That's what we're asking.
We're
you to
asking
make.
you to do.
Ah, I see,
Because
okay.
you made the motion.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
Because you had done the motion.
So, yes, all right. I do ask, well, I don't know if I can move to change my motion to approve the levy to reflect,
The budget appropriations ordinance.
to change the tentative budget and appropriations public appropriations ordinance, to reflect under employee fringe benefits pension plan an appropriation of $2.5 million and $1, although the budget amount remains at $250,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll second it.
Okay, so okay, any discussion? Okay, Diane, please take the roll. Karen?
Yes.
Carolyn?
No.
Barbara? Yes. Patty?
Yes.
Linda? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I lost my agenda. My agenda? There we go. Yes, we're going to go into executive session. To discuss the selection of a person to fill a public office. No, just on the budget. Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Barb?
I'll second it.
And Patty. Okay, Diane, please take a roll. Karen?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Linda? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we stand adjourned to go into executive session at 8:56 PM.
You would expect to come.
9:17, right? Okay, Karen?
Here.
Carolyn? Here. Barbara? Here. Patty? Here. Linda? Here. Tim?
Here.
No action. Is there any other? Okay, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Barb, Carolyn, Diane, or everybody say aye.
Might as well come back.